I'm going to be talking about Hardik Pandya. You could see as soon as he won, you could see the tears rolling down his face. You could see the burden just leaving him. And it just felt like, okay, finally there's something that I can take back that is a silver lining, that is a plus in my life, that is like finally feel like something has gone my way. Just when it feels like, something's turned the corner for him, he gets the divorce kind of gets finalized. How does one attain peak performance even when you're going through something as difficult as this or a challenging time in your relationship? Hey guys, how are y'all doing? Hope all of y'all are doing very, very well. On this episode and on this series, we're going to be talking about the latest cricket news, what's happening in the world of cricket, and basically my insight on different things that are going on within the realm of the cricket world. And basically it's my insight on perhaps what players are going through, how it affects them and how they can deal with it, and my learnings from all of this and how I apply that into my life, and I'll share those learnings with you all. And mentoring and coaching is something that is a passion of mine, something that I'm doing at this point in time. So at some point you can perhaps avail those services of mine a little later on down the line. Today I'm going to be talking about Hardik Pandya. We just heard very recently about his divorce. And clearly a divorce cannot be easy. And it seems like he has been dealing with things that happened to him, I think, over the last 8-9 months or so. In fact, I think it all started perhaps with his move from Gujarat Titans to Mumbai Indians, and when he was named as captain, there was a huge uproar of everything that happened, and maybe that was what was happening in the forefront, but perhaps in the background. The unrest within his relationship was already going on, and it's something that none of us had any idea about. You would think that, man, it must have been a hard 12 months for him. When I think about what that could have been like for him, couldn't have been easy. Certainly couldn't have been easy on both sides of the relationship, but we're focusing only on cricket and the cricketers and what learnings we can get from that. Perhaps the other side of the story we'll cover another time or in another channel, and you can follow true perspective for that. When we come to what Hardik perhaps went through, obviously the trolling, the hate, the uproar with his lack of performance and perhaps his leadership during the course of the IPL, was tremendous. When I thought about it from a human perspective, it was extremely hard, and I had a lot of empathy for the guy, because it couldn't have been easy. Couldn't have been easy to actually go through everything that he was going through, and we saw how that affected him and the burden of that when eventually he was one of the top performers in the World Cup and helped us win our second T20 World Cup. You could see as soon as he won, even before he went to bowl that second last ball or the last ball, you could see the tears rolling down his face. You could see the burden just leaving him. And when eventually they did win the tournament, you could see how not just him but so many other players were just relieved that the burden of winning for India and a lot of personal burdens just kind of fell off, and it just felt like, okay, finally there's something that I can take back that is a silver lining, that is a plus in my life, that is like finally feel like something has gone my way. Just when it feels like, something's turned the corner for him, he gets the divorce kind of gets finalized. And another one to boot that would be the fact that he's released as the T20I captain of the Indian cricket team, and Surya Kumar Yadav has come in. Back-to-back blows, personal life, professional life, even though you've come off a great victory, but before that you're dealing with a lot of negativity, a lot of hate, a lot of trolling. He would have obviously thought, and anyone in his place would have perhaps thought that now that I've won a World Cup and been such a massive contributing factor in winning a World Cup as the vice captain of the team, surely when a captain retires and leaves the baton on for somebody else to take it, surely he would have thought, okay, maybe it'll land in my lap. And clearly there's a leadership change. Gautam Gambhir has come in as a leader of the Indian cricket team today, along with Rohit Sharma And obviously he's picked other leaders, picked Surya Kumar Yadav for T20I cricket and Rohit for Test and One Day cricket. So obviously the mindset has changed. Leadership positions has changed. So there has been a little bit of a shake-up, and he finds himself as an athlete in the middle of that shake-up. And when you think about it from that point of view, must be disappointed. He must feel like, I was there. Perhaps all the things that I was going through, and the fact that in the background, this was happening as well. I perhaps couldn't lead, and he'll never say it. No one will ever, say it, that this probably affected my leadership. It probably affected my mind and my judgment, at my place of work. But maybe it did. Perhaps it did. We don't know. When you're going through something as stressful as a divorce, as a separation in your relationship, it can add a massive burden and can kind of affect your judgment. It can be something that weighs on you constantly, whether you like it or not. It's just like it's looming around you at all times. And even when you're working, you can't give your 100%, or even if you try to give your 100%, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. It's certainly difficult, and we saw that it wasn't impossible with Hardik Pandya, because when the World Cup came around, you could see that every blood, sweat and tear of hard work that he had put in, leading up to that World Cup, and all the hate and everything that he had absorbed through the IPL and before the IPL, he was able to go out there and produce great results irrespective of what he was going through. So there is a possibility of peak performance even when you're going through something as difficult as a separation in your relationship or a divorce. You have to understand that there is a child involved in this scenario. There is another soul involved in this scenario. So it makes it doubly hard when it involves not just you, but someone you deeply love and care about on both fronts, as his child and his partner. So how does one attain peak performance even when you're going through something as difficult as this, or a challenging time in your relationship? As far as I am concerned, there are a few things. For me, I think the first thing is to be able to separate personal life and professional life. To be able to have that distinction that this is where personal life ends and this is where professional life begins. This is where professional life ends and this is where personal life begins. To have that distinct separation is key, and to take ownership for it is absolutely important. You cannot not take that responsibility and hope that peak performance or great performances happen. That ownership, the same thing that's saying that, hey, I'm going to distinct this from A to B, and I'm going to make sure that this is where A ends. I'm going to define that this is where A ends and this is where B begins. And then when B ends, I'll allow myself to get in that space of A. And it's quite hard, but it's not impossible. You need to take the ownership to say, I'm going to do it, irrespective of what it takes. Because as a man, I still have to run my house, I still have to run my family, I still have to fulfill my responsibilities as a man. And well, I think irrespective if you're a man or a woman, if you have responsibilities, you have to fulfill them. And if you're a person of high standards, you will want to achieve that irrespective of what you're going through. So I think with regards to that, it is possible for you to actually secure peak performance irrespective of what you're going through in your life. You just need a distinction to say, for me, this is what it was. I've been through a lot of personal stuff myself, especially when I was going through clinical depression, being suicidal, relationship issues, and oftentimes in the past, before I was able to recover from clinical depression and be myself and work and become the person that I want to become. Oftentimes, in fact not oftentimes, most times, I would pin my bad performances, especially when in the time of relationship issues. I would pin those bad performances on my ex-girlfriend or my partner that I was with at that point in time. I would pin it on them and not take responsibility for my performances on the field, because who's responsible for my performances on the field? It's me. I turn up with bat, I turn up with gloves, I turn up on the field, I turn up with my mind. So if I'm not turning up, that's my responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility. The buck always ends and stops with me. So if I decide that yes, it's affecting me, but I'm going to make sure that from this point, I'm going to have something that triggers me into that state. But from that point, I'm not going to allow anything from outside of cricket to touch me. Then I am truly dedicated to my work and what needs to be done that day. For you all, it perhaps is a 9 to 5 job. It's probably playing a match. It's probably going into your corporate life. It could be anything, right? When you decide that it's time, for me, oftentimes it would be I would get ready, I'd have a conversation. When I did make that change and took the ownership back and the power back to myself, because I realized when I'm actually pinning my performances on somebody else, I'm giving the control of my emotions and the power that I possess to somebody else. The minute you do that, irrespective of how hard you try, there's always your complete power is not with you. So you're actually starting off behind the 8 ball and you're not giving yourself the best chance to perform well. So for me, what I would do is I would get on the call, and once I finish my final call before going into the game, I would turn on music. I'd have a particular playlist that I had at that point in time that turned me into my match state, and I would listen to that music from the time I entered the bus or after I finished the call till we got to the ground. And I would have one particular song that got me into that state, and once I got into that state, I would switch on. And I knew that that was a song, and that was a song that was just on my mind, on my lips, and it's always something that made me feel good. It could be, Your Time Is Up, My Time Is Now, John Cena's entry song. It could be that song. That was one of my songs at one point in time. Another song was Galway Girl by Ed Sheeran, which is just a feel-good song for me. But that feel-good got me into that state. So you can certainly use tools to get yourself into that state. Take power. And I remember when Sheetan and I were dating, when we started dating, there would be times when I was still evolving in myself. As one time I pinned my performance on her, and like, hey, how can you do that? Because we were going through some issues, and then I pinned my performance on her, or lack of performance on her, and she's like, how can you do that? Why can't you take responsibility for your own performances? And then that got me thinking. I'm like, oh yeah, man, as in I have to take responsibility for my own performances, and that's when it got me to thinking about how can I ever give the power of my performances away to somebody else? That is unfair to me. And I need to take ownership for my performances, so I'm going to take ownership for my performances. And I came back that evening and I apologized to Sheets and said, see, you know what, I'm sorry. You are never responsible for my performances. Nothing that happens between you and me is ever going to impact my performance on the ground. What I do on the ground is me, and how I turn up is my responsibility. I know how I'm going to play my cricket. I know I'm going to turn up my performances. You don't have power over me when it comes to cricket anymore. It is my space. I'm going to take control of that, and I'm going to own that. And that is how I took the power back, and I took ownership of my performances. And irrespective, and ever since then, whether Sheets and I were going through a good time, a bad time, a terrible time, periods of doubt, periods of despair, which naturally happens in every relationship, nothing ever came in between my performance and on the field. My performance on the field was never affected by that, because when I turned up with a purpose, and I turned up with clarity, and I turned up with what needs to be done on that particular day. What do I need to do on that particular day? And that is how I think a lot of athletes get into that state where they take ownership. They will be going through a lot. People go through a lot. We are all all of us athletes, professional athletes, are all normal human beings going through life normally, going through normal human relationships with a lot of issues, with a lot of problems, and we work through them. And I would love for you all to share how you all deal with issues that you all are going through personally, and how do you all get into a state where it doesn't affect your work. Share that with me in the comments. I'll engage with you on those fronts. Where I'm even thinking of doing something that you guys really enjoy a little bit down the line. I would love to know what you guys think, and kudos to Hardik to be able to turn up and perform the way he did at the World Cup, to take all the hate, to take all the negativity for a continued sustained period of time, and still turn that into match-winning performances. To absorb negativity and turn it into a positivity, I think is a superpower. I think it's a tremendous ability, and I think it's an ability that a lot of us can draw inspiration from and apply into our own lives. And I hope that all of you apply it into your own life. I certainly will. And once again, please share with me what you all think and how you all separate your professional life from your personal life, and how do you turn up into a good state and turn up great performances at work. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.